Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Here we talk about everything from witchy topics and the paranormal to spirituality, quantum physics, and so much more. It's spooky season, so I've been itching to tell some scary stories or supernatural stories, particularly from New Orleans, since for some reason my mind has been on that city all month. See, I've been interested in New Orleans since I was a kid, and as I grew up, I came to associate it with the supernatural even more due to the rich history of its people, many who are descendants of enslaved people who brought their powerful spiritual practices with them from Africa. Also, New Orleans was once the center of the US slave trade, so it's really no wonder it's known for its ghost sightings and other strange occurrences. Many spirits and energies still linger there. Memories of its past are still held in the soil and the air. Its ancient trees, some of the oldest in the world, have bore witness to the things that took place there over the centuries. I really feel like this is why so many visitors and residents alike have amazing stories of encountering the paranormal in New Orleans, from ghosts to vampires. So I did some digging, and I'm honored to present you with an interesting true story today. Please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment. And now let's get into it. So this story comes from Reddit. It's 6 years old, but I have never heard it anywhere. It's in the paranormal section, and the title goes, I think I met a supernatural being in New Orleans. So let's get into it. OP says, I had an encounter with a person slash angel slash demon slash parallel universe person slash alien a few years ago in New Orleans. It's a moment that I simply can't get out of my head, but I haven't been ready to talk about because the entirety of the experience sounds crazy, and I'm generally a rational human being. This is a throwaway account for obvious reasons. No one in my circle of family or friends knows that I went through this in the first 4 years of my relationship, and I'd prefer to keep it that way. I'm hoping someone can identify what exactly happened and perhaps talk me out of believing this was a supernatural experience. A few years ago, my husband and I were on our honeymoon. While things are fantastic now, they haven't always been. My husband had a lot of emotional baggage from his youth, as did I. While I tend to internalize things, my husband's the opposite and was often taking his anger out on me. He was an alcoholic, cheated on me, did more than a few things to break my trust, was emotionally abusive, and was part of the reason I spiraled into a deep depression. While I probably should have left him instead of marrying him at the time, I'm glad I didn't. He's worked on himself significantly, and although he does lose his temper every now and again, it's no longer directed at me. He's not a villain. The backstory is to allow you to understand why I still question to this day what happened. It was our second or third day in New Orleans. We were starting our day, walking from the Maginot to the French Quarter. I decided to go to a few stores while my husband smoked a cigarette and waited for me. As I came out to meet him, he was talking to a very tall man with straw blonde hair, in his mid-40s or so, with a dog, on the edge of the sidewalk, while he leaned against the storefront. I love talking to people, so as I joined him, I invited him to come into my bubble, 'cause I say weird things like that. This was my first inkling that something was off. He looked at me intensely and said to me, "Don't ever say that. You never know who you're inviting over," and came closer all the same. The rest of the conversation was weird to say the least. It was not quite esoteric in nature, but it felt like the things he was saying could be either brushed off as a crazy man in need of medication, or that he was a soldier that lived a rough life. I don't particularly remember what he said, other than it was off. At some point, he asked me if I knew what I was wearing around my neck. I said, yes, of course. It's the tree of life. I made it. I can't remember the details along exactly what he said, but after this, he looked at me and then looked at my husband and said to me, "Why are you here?" I replied that it was our honeymoon and that we were married. I remember feeling the weight of those words on my chest at that moment. I remember the heartbreak and everything that transpired in our relationship, and we shared a moment where it was as if he could read my mind and he knew. He gave me a look of what I could only describe as empathy or sympathy. He looked at me and said, You're full of light. Your heart is full of light." He turned to my husband, "But your heart is darkness." He turned back to me at that point and said, so only I could hear, "Do you want me to swap some of that out so things are more balanced?" He looked at me intensely, like this was a heavily weighted question with consequences. I'm not sure what compelled me to do so, but I nodded yes. At that point, he touched both of us in the spot of our third eyes, and he told me it was done. I looked him directly in the eyes, face to face for the first time since we started to talk. He was at least 6'5", so I had to crane my neck to look up at him. It was then that I realized how strange they were. His pupils were red. Red. Not black, or reflecting light or anything. They were bright red. The color of the iris was like mine, blue with spots of brown, which is not very common. I said to him, "Hey, your eye color, it's the same as mine." Not brave enough to ask about the pupils. He looked genuinely surprised that I was able to notice his eyes. It was like he pondered this for a moment, and then he shrugged and said to me the weirdest thing, "Maybe you're a descendant." As he walked away with his dog, he yelled, "By the way, I never wash my hands," as he laughed. So here's the thing though. The rest of the day, well into the evening, we both tingled everywhere. Not quite an itch, but it was something starting from the spot he touched us and working its way down our bodies until it was at our feet and then left. I kid you not. About a week later, things slowly started improving with our relationship. While I don't doubt this is mostly because of my husband's effort to change, part of me wonders if the catalyst wasn't that moment in New Orleans. Funny thing is, my husband doesn't remember any of the weird stuff. He remembers the homeless guy, and that he was weird, but he doesn't remember any of the spiritual stuff he said to me, or the color of his eyes, or anything. Not even how tall and imposing he was. I mean, dude looked like a Viking. What/who exactly did I meet? Wow, that's a really interesting story. And it really made me think, like, who was that she met? I don't know if he was a vampire necessarily. She didn't bring that up either. She's saying maybe an angel, demon, parallel universe person, alien. Hey, who knows? I'm open to answers as well. I tried to look if there's any comments, but unfortunately it only showed that there's one, but you can't access it, so I don't know if it was deleted. But yeah, that's just a strange encounter. But that person changed her life for the better, though. Like, her husband sounded like a nightmare. Like, as I was reading it at first and all the horrible things he did to her, I'm just like, oh my God, this just sounds like a terrible, like, abusive person. Like, tell me she divorced him. But then she's like, oh, like, things got better. And I was a little skeptical. But after that encounter, things completely changed in her relationship. I have never heard of that before. He put his hands on both of their third eyes, touched them, and what was his exact quote? Hang on. "Do you want me to swap some of that out so things are more balanced?" He sensed that there was something about them that wasn't going to work out. Guys, let me know in the comments what you think of this story. This is coming out of New Orleans. This was 6 years ago that this person posted this, and this was something that she encountered a few years before that. So I wonder if anyone else over the years has encountered this individual. Very interesting. This person was definitely looking out for her. And if he could see into her past and see the things she's been through, I'm sure he saw into the future as well. Like what she would go through if she continued with this relationship. So, wow, this person gave her the option to change her future. Just an incredible story. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will definitely be looking for more spooky and interesting stories to share on this channel. Thanks so much for watching. Make sure that you leave a comment, like, and subscribe for the algorithm, and I will certainly see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.